I never expected my Christmas morning to start with a message from my daughter, Clara. She wrote only 5 words. Dad, please come tonight. No emojis, no warmth, no Merry Christmas. Just a short message that felt more like an instruction than an invitation. For months, Clara had avoided my calls. She always said she was too busy, or too tired, or in the middle of something important. So when she suddenly wanted me at her Christmas dinner, my stomach felt tight, like something was wrong. Still, I told her I would come. I always came when she called. I raised her alone. I never learned how to say no to her. By evening, a cold wind pushed against my coat as I walked up the steps to her house. The Christmas lights blinked, but they didn't make the place look warm. They made it look nervous. Even the little snowman decoration by the door had a strange tilt, like someone had knocked it over and rushed to fix it. I knocked gently. No answer. I knocked again, harder. This time, the door opened fast, too fast, as if someone had been standing behind it, waiting but afraid. Clara appeared. Her smile was small, stiff, and her eyes looked tired. She hugged me quickly, but her body was tense. Dad, you made it, she said, but her voice didn't match her words. It sounded like she was forcing herself to sound normal. Behind her, I saw Kelvin, my son-in-law, standing near the dining table. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't even pretending. He had his arms crossed, and his jaw was tight, like he'd been chewing on anger all day. Evening, he said, but the word came out dry. Toby, my grandson, peeked out from behind the couch. The moment he saw me, he ran into my arms and held on tight, tighter than usual. You came, he whispered. I'm happy you came, but his voice trembled. I could feel his little heartbeat racing against my chest. Something was wrong, very wrong. I looked around the room. The table was set neatly, 5 plates, 5 chairs, 5 sets of cutlery. But there were only 4 of us in the room. The 5th plate was for someone else. Someone already expected. Someone important enough to have a seat waiting. I opened my mouth to ask who else was joining us, but Clara spoke quickly, almost too quickly. Dad, just sit. Dinner is ready. Her hands were shaking as she picked up a serving spoon. I sat down slowly, studying everything in the room, the locked window, Kelvin's phone face down on the table, Clara's anxious smile, Toby's worried eyes. Then I noticed something else. The chair beside mine, the one meant for the missing guest, wasn't empty. A coat lay over the back of it. A black coat, expensive, neatly placed. Not Clara's style, not Kelvin's, not anyone I knew. Someone had already arrived. Someone I hadn't seen enter. Someone who wanted their presence to be felt, not announced. And that was when the air in the room changed quiet, heavy, almost watchful, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The Christmas dinner had only begun, but nothing about it felt like Christmas. It felt like a meeting I had been dragged into without knowing the rules. And somehow, deep inside me, I knew I wasn't invited for celebration. I was invited for something else entirely, something hidden, something twisted, something I was not supposed to understand yet. The coat on the 5th chair bothered me more than anything else in the room. It wasn't just a coat, it was a message that someone had already claimed that seat, even though I hadn't seen anyone enter the house. I kept glancing at it, while Clara walked around the table, trying to look calm, but her hands kept brushing her skirt, smoothing the same spot over and over, a nervous habit she had since childhood. Dad, please start eating, she said softly. Please. That word again. She almost never used it with me. I picked up my fork, but my eyes stayed on the coat. The fabric looked new, untouched by outside weather. It didn't belong to anyone in the family, and the way it was placed, too neat, too exact, as if the owner cared about order more than comfort. Kelvin noticed me staring and cleared his throat. "Don't worry about that," he said quickly, too quickly. Toby slid into the chair next to me. He wasn't touching his food. He kept watching the hallway behind Kelvin, his small fingers tapping the table like a quiet warning. "Grandpa," he whispered, "is he coming back?" I froze. He? So the owner of the coat had been here. Clara shot Toby a sharp look, the kind a frightened adult gives a child who almost reveals something. "Toby," she said firmly, "eat." The boy lowered his head. I looked at Clara again. Her eyes didn't meet mine. Something was eating her alive from the inside. The room felt smaller by the minute. I finally asked, trying to sound gentle, "Who else is joining us tonight?" Silence. Clara pretended not to hear me. Kelvin stabbed a piece of chicken like it insulted him. Toby held his breath. And then, as if summoned footsteps, echoed from the hallway. Slow, measured, not rushed, not shy. A tall man appeared in the doorway. Dark suit, black tie, smooth hair, expression cold, almost empty. He walked to the table without a word, without looking at anyone, and sat down in the chair beside me, the one with the coat. He didn't smile. He didn't greet anyone. He didn't even blink much. He just folded his hands on the table and stared straight ahead, calm, like someone used to watching people, not speaking to them. I tried to be polite. "What's your name?" I asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. He didn't answer. Clara's fork slipped from her hand and hit her plate with a sharp sound. She forced a laugh that didn't sound like a laugh at all. "Oh, Dad, he's just here for dinner," she mumbled. "Just here for dinner?" No one brings a stranger to Christmas dinner without explanation. Kelvin scratched his neck, his eyes darting around like he was checking invisible corners. The man finally turned his head, not to me, but slightly toward Clara, almost checking her reaction. Then he looked forward again, not a single word. Toby squeezed my arm under the table. "Grandpa," he murmured, "I don't like him." Neither did I. Nothing about the man felt safe. Nothing about the room felt normal. They all knew something they refused to tell me. As I sat there, studying the silent man, I felt something strange in my pocket, a small vibration. My phone, someone was contacting me, but no one at that table looked at me. No one reached for their phones. The message wasn't from any of them. I breathed in slowly, pretending to adjust my jacket, and slid my hand into my pocket to check. What I saw on the screen made my whole body tighten. The screen of my phone glowed under the table, hidden by my hand. One message, no name, no saved contact, just a number I had never seen before. And the message was short. "Sir, run away." Immediately, my heart didn't jump, but it tightened. The kind of tightness you feel when your body knows something before your mind does. I didn't show any reaction. I didn't lift my head fast. I kept breathing slowly, as if reading something harmless. Years of being a father had taught me how to stay calm when everything inside me wanted answers. I placed my phone face down and looked around the table. Clara wasn't eating. She was staring at her plate, moving her food around without taking a bite. Her shoulders trembled slightly. Kelvin was tapping his spoon on the table, pretending it was accidental. It wasn't. He was nervous, too nervous for a simple Christmas dinner. His eyes flicked toward the living room every few seconds, like he expected someone else to show up. Toby kept his small hand on my arm. He didn't speak, but his silence said more than words. Children sense danger the way animals do, without logic, without explanation, just pure instinct. Then there was the man in the suit. He sat perfectly still, back straight, hands folded, eyes forward. He wasn't eating either. He wasn't even pretending to join the dinner. It was like he wasn't here to eat at all. I watched him from the corner of my eye. I noticed small details most people would miss. His shoes were polished, untouched by snow outside. His shirt cuffs were perfectly straight, like he had fixed them moments before entering. His jaw tightened only when Kelvin moved. His eyes flicked toward Clara every time she touched her fork. He wasn't guarding the house. He wasn't guarding the family. He was watching them, or maybe watching me. I tried to act normal and took a sip of water, even though my throat felt dry. My mind raced quietly. Who sent the message? Why send it to me? What danger was I supposed to run from? The stranger? Someone outside? Or someone inside? I looked at Clara again. She forced a smile at me, a soft, broken smile, but her eyes were begging me not to ask questions. When I reached for the breadbasket, Kelvin's eyes shot toward my hand, then to the man in the suit, as if checking if I was allowed to move. Allowed? The word hit me strangely. Why would I need permission? In my daughter's house? At a family dinner? Toby leaned closer to me. His voice was barely a whisper. Grandpa, please don't go to the kitchen. Mum said you shouldn't. Shouldn't? I hadn't even tried to go anywhere. I looked around the dining room, paying attention to every detail, and then I noticed something new. The kitchen door was closed, completely shut, locked from the outside, with a small metal latch I had never seen there before. Why would a kitchen need to be locked during Christmas dinner? I felt the unread message burning in my pocket. Run away, immediately. But running without knowing what I was running from would only make things worse. I needed to understand the danger before stepping into it. I placed a calming hand on Toby's shoulder and straightened in my chair, quietly watching the others. The room was too quiet, too controlled, too unnatural. Whatever was happening in this house tonight, everyone knew something except me, and they were all terrified of the same thing, even if they pretended not to be. The longer I sat at that table, the more I understood one thing. This wasn't a dinner. It was an arrangement, a setup, a moment everyone had prepared for, except me. But they were all pretending it was normal, which made everything feel even more wrong. Clara lifted the bowl of rice with shaky hands. Dad, want some? Her voice was thin, as if she was trying not to cry or scream. I nodded gently. Sure, sweetheart. She blinked fast when I called her sweetheart, as if she hadn't heard that word from me in a long time. The spoon nearly slipped from her hand, and Kelvin quickly reached out to steady the bowl. But he didn't look at her. He looked at the man in the suit first, like he needed silent permission to move. The man didn't even blink. That told me everything. Kelvin was scared of him. Clara was scared of him. Even Toby kept his eyes lowered whenever the man shifted slightly in his chair. I watched Kelvin closely. His jaw moved like he was grinding his teeth. He kept wiping his hands on his trousers as if they were sweating too much. Dad, he said suddenly, how was your day? It was the type of question a man asks when he is trying to fill a space he doesn't want to examine. His voice was tight, almost forced. It was fine, I replied calmly. Quiet. He nodded too fast. Good. That's good. His eyes hit the kitchen door again, then the front door, then the man beside me. I followed his gaze. The kitchen latch was still locked. The front door was double bolted. The windows were closed, curtains pulled tight. This house, usually warm and bright on Christmas, felt like a sealed box. A box Someone had closed from the outside, or maybe from the inside. Toby slid his chair closer to me. He leaned in, pretending to tie his shoe, but he whispered something so soft I barely heard it. Grandpa, they made me clean the house 2 times. Mum said she didn't want anything to look wrong when he came. Who came? I whispered back. But Toby bit his lip and shook his head, afraid to say more. Clara suddenly stood up from her chair, too sharply. Who wants juice? She asked, but her voice cracked at the end. She didn't wait for an answer. She just needed to move, to do something, to keep herself from falling apart. I watched her open the fridge with her back stiff, shoulders hunched. Kelvin's foot tapped the floor under the table, fast and uneven. His eyes refused to meet mine. Then there was the man. He still hadn't spoken, not one word. He sat like someone used to control, not conversation. His eyes shifted slowly from me to Clara to Kelvin, as if checking pieces on a board, as if all of us were part of something that only he understood. I studied his hands. Clean nails, no shaking, no fidgeting, just calm, steady control. A man with no fear in a room full of people drowning in it. That told me more than any introduction ever could. Clara returned to the table with glasses of juice. Her hands were trembling so much that a few drops spilled onto the table. "It's okay," I said softly, reaching to help her. She pulled back quickly, too quickly, like she didn't want to touch me in front of the man. My suspicions grew heavier. This dinner wasn't about celebration. This man wasn't a friend or a relative. And the message in my pocket wasn't a joke. Everyone at the table was waiting for something, for a moment they were too scared to talk about. And whatever it was, it hadn't arrived yet, but it was close, very close. The house felt tighter with every breath. Clara's eyes kept darting between me and the silent man. Kelvin's knee bounced non-stop like a motor he couldn't switch off. Toby held my hand under the table, as if he feared I would disappear, and the message in my pocket, "Run away," immediately pressed against my mind like a warning bell. I watched the man beside me. He didn't eat. He didn't drink. He didn't even pretend to be part of the family. He just sat there, calm and firm, like someone waiting for a signal. 5 minutes passed. Something in the room changed, not loudly, but deeply, like a shift in air. Kelvin's phone vibrated. He checked the screen and instantly turned pale. His lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. Clara set her fork down. Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. She whispered, barely moving her lips, "It's time." Time for what? Toby scooted closer to me. "Grandpa," he whispered shakily. "I'm scared." So was I, but I didn't show it. The man in the suit finally turned his head, not toward Clara, not toward Kelvin, but toward me, and he spoke his first words of the night. "Sir," he said in a calm, controlled tone, "you should stay seated." His voice wasn't loud, it wasn't threatening, but it was final, like a rule. Kelvin swallowed hard. Clara squeezed her hands together. They weren't scared of him. They were scared because of him. I had spent the whole evening thinking this man was the danger, but he wasn't. He was the shield. A heavy knock hit the front door. Slow, strong, a knock that didn't ask for permission, it announced itself. Kelvin flinched so hard his glass tipped over. Clara covered her mouth. Toby crawled into my lap, shaking. The man in the suit stood up with calm confidence. "Stay here," he said. "Do not move." I watched him walk toward the door with steady, practiced steps. My heart pounded, but my mind stayed sharp. This was the twist I never expected. Clara hadn't invited me for Christmas dinner. She had invited me because she was terrified of whoever was now standing outside that locked door. She needed me close, not to help her celebrate, but to help her survive whatever was coming. The knock came again, louder this time, shaking the doorframe. Kelvin whispered, "He found us." Clara grabbed his arm. Toby buried his face in my chest. And then, with a firm movement, the man in the suit unlocked the bolts and pulled the door open. A large figure stepped forward, filling the doorway. A face I recognized. A name I wished I never had to hear again. The person my daughter had been hiding from. The person she feared more than anything. The person who had finally tracked her down tonight. And now he wasn't looking at Clara, or Kelvin, or the man protecting us. He was looking straight at me. Because he wasn't here for them. He was here for me. What happened that night changed everything. When the truth finally came out, why he came, what he wanted, and why my daughter had lived in fear, our family stood together in a way we never had before. The man in the suit wasn't our enemy. He was the one who helped us break free, the one who protected us when danger stood at the door. And as the night slowly calmed, I held my daughter and grandson close, realizing that sometimes the darkest moments lead us to the brightest paths. We walked into the new day with hope, understanding, and a bond stronger than anything we had faced. Christmas didn't bring gifts. It brought truth, safety, and a second chance to rebuild as a real family. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories.